You never know what life will bring. I mean, anything can happen, right? And when it comes to your parents, there's certain things you need to know if something does happen, things they need to put in order. If there's a sudden illness, an unexpected surgery, or in my mom's case, Alzheimer's. If there's a death, if you're called on to make decisions, you don't want confusion. You don't want complication. You just want to know the answers. So, what are the questions we should ask our parents before it's too late? This is what I needed to know. For the answer, we've got the expert, attorney Steve Malach, who heads Lipson Neilson's estate planning. Hi, Steve.
Hi, how are you, Lila?
What do you think the biggest mistake is that people make when it comes to their parents and their parents' wishes?
Not communicating enough. And that goes, by the way, two ways: children to parents, parents to children.
So, what is it we should be communicating about, and when's the right time?
The time is when the parents are ready to engage in the practicalities of life. We're born, we live, we pass away. They're absolutes. It's a question of when you're starting to accept that. For many, it's when they're young marrieds and they have young children. Their focus is, who's going to take care of my kids? Who's going to take care of my wife? How are the bills going to get paid for decades if something happens to me? Now, as life goes on, those children get older. Those children get married. Those children have children, and you accumulate more. So now you've attained decades later another level of potential concern, and what drives clients in to make planning. Let's do it now. Let's do POAs. Let's do wills. Let's do trusts. Let's do medical powers. And the third and last chance, of course, is as you get older. Now you've got grandchildren or great grandchildren. You've come close to charities. Your life, some kids have made it, some kids haven't. Some have moved away, some are closer with you. You have more to reflect on to make those final decisions. Fact is, many clients have one, two, it would be three estate plans as they go through these various stages of life. Those are the three stages that clients typically go through to make their estate plans and then make the alternative decision of who they're going to share this with, besides the lawyer that they went and saw.
What about the importance of that power of attorney, both the financial and the healthcare power of attorney?
It's funny you mention that, because when clients come in, they're talking to me about wills and trusts primarily. And I look at them and go, you understand you're probably going to get sick before you pass away. I mean, most of us hope we pass away in our sleep. And okay, but as you know from your mom, and as I know from many decades of clients, oftentimes you get sick before you pass away. And the sickness can be physical, the sickness can be like your mom with Alzheimer's, or oftentimes, since we're living longer, it's really both. And I spend half that time in those meetings and document preparations for those clients going over what I call living probate issues, the medical powers of attorney, HIPAA authorizations, the regular durable financial powers of attorney. Fact is, they'll probably get used more before the will and the trust get used. That's just the way it is.
Are you surprised sometimes about how many people don't even bother to do the will and the trust?
Well, you're out talking to an expert. Surprise is a funny word, because that lack of planning supports a pretty robust probate practice that I have going on. And that's for individuals who couldn't make the plans, or in some defense, these are young people, children, tragedies that I don't want to talk about it at length, other than couldn't have avoided going to probate, a lawsuit over medical malpractice, things like that. But otherwise, procrastination is the primary enemy in estate planning. People just wait sometimes too long.
What would you say to people who are listening to this who are procrastinating?
If you care about your family, if you care about what you have going where you want it to go, get a plan done. If you don't, well, now a probate judge in a courtroom you don't know about, who has no idea about your family, who will first divulge as a public record everything you own, will decide who's in charge and who gets what. Why would you invite that? Why would you want that for your family? I don't know. I don't know.
Once you do have those estate planning documents, even a durable power of attorney, a will, a trust, where do those get stored?
30 years ago, 20 years ago, I would give you one answer. Now I get to give you a new updated digital answer. Clients get what we call wet copies, hard copies of their documents, all their originals. We as a law firm and most store that initially in those files you've seen, legal files, and nowadays it's stored for the law firm, at least our firm, digitally. And I oftentimes am asked now at estate planning signings to provide a flash drive or a PDF of the documents so the clients can either have that for themselves or they can give it to their family. Take your pick. So you get both, because institutions still are looking for that hard copy. We're switching over nowadays. There's a trend. To be honest with you, the pandemic has accelerated the digital way of handling this in my industry. It's evolving as we speak. I'm doing Zoom court. Whoever heard of that? I'm doing Zoom trials. Are you kidding me? But we're not going to the buildings. They're still locked up. And the families don't need to go and the clients don't need to go. So things are changing in this area. I predict we may even have DocuSign in some format for estate planning. We're a ways away from that, but I can see that happening in the near future.
I was going to ask you how COVID has changed estate planning.
Yeah, it's bittersweet because you're not meeting. For me, I'm meeting with people in person as much as I used to, and I miss that. And that's, to me, the most effective way of communicating. We're virtual right now. I'd just soon be in the same room with you, but right. I get this. This is the way it's going. This is the way it's going to be, and I have to come around as a manager of a department to accept this and accept what's going to be mainstream, whether I like it or not. It's the way it's going to be.
How often should you be updating your estate planning documents?
I get to give you a good lawyer answer for that because there's two answers. The lawyer answer is there's always significant changes in circumstances. It's kind of like a new car. As soon as you drive out the dealership, it's going to reduce in price because the newer version is going to be nicer and more expensive. So, and that's true for estate planning documents. Our firm prides itself on state-of-the-art documents. We tweak them every year or sometimes even twice a year. So the next year would be the latest and greatest. On the other hand, as I tell clients, some of them are driving around with 1994 Ford Tauruses. That's the longest living driving car in America. It's got some rust on the wheels. It's got wind down windows. Doesn't have GPS, but you know what? It works fine for them. So that's part of the answer. The other answer is what I mentioned before, the typical 3 stages of life that drive folks in to do their estate planning: young marrieds, middle age, and then seniors, just by the matter of passage of time.
So when you talk to people about what they should be saying to their parents or what parents should be saying to their children, they should not only know that there is a will, a trust, a power of attorney, but they also should know who the attorney is that made it all happen so they know where these documents are, where everything is stored. And then what about knowing whether or not there's long-term care insurance or those kinds of policies?
When we give our clients estate plan, it's a package of documents. They ask me where to put that. I go, put it with all the other important papers that you want your kids to see. Where's your tax returns? Let's start with that. Where's your insurance stuff? Put it all together. We provide pockets in these binders. Again, we're moving into a digital age, so this is going to change over time, how this is accumulated by us. The answer is it's going to be on our phones eventually, all of it. But right now, just pile the paper where it is. I would let the first in charge know where it is, to be sure. I have some clients that send that PDF or that flash drive to their children. They want to see the documents now. You don't have to do that because the documents don't require their signature at the onset. They require countersigning when they are being used. If I do a power of attorney for a person in their 30s, why, heck, that may not be used for 50, 60 years. They'll sit there. That's okay. So to finish answering your question, it's a comfort level for the clients. my own parents didn't send me a copy of their estate plan that they had done at another lawyer. That's okay. I saw it afterwards. Me and my brother did our thing together. I love my brother. Uh, but some clients don't want to share that. It could be sibling rivalry. They could be not wanting to share that information until they're gone. They don't want the kids to see it. Okay, that's their personal choice, and you have to respect that. From a logical standpoint, I'd like them to share it with the family. So as you say, when the time comes, they know where it is, they know what it is. But the other way is just as oftentimes occurs, and that is the clients take those documents, put them away, and they don't share it with anybody because they don't want to.
How important is it to know your mom or dad's end of life wishes? And what are the consequences when you don't know?
The consequences can be difficult. Personally experiencing both from clients and my mom, who had a terrible car crash and was in surgery without signing a medical power of attorney, and a doctor saying, pull the plug, or for any family member, as far as that goes. And I've been involved in those, unfortunately, too many times. And families gathered in the conference room, and there's a disagreement about what to do. And without having something signed and known, now it's a free for all. I've actually had a few court cases in Oakland County here with the mom in the hospital at Beaumont and the doctor testifying from there, and the kids all in the courtroom, all lawyered up to decide whether to terminate her life with artificial life support or not. Terrible thing to go through. I might add, I tell every client this in a meeting, when you sign those documents now, you're enhancing to the billionth possibility you won't need them. It's when you don't do them, you're asking for trouble.
You know, do they want to be buried? Do they want to be cremated? What exactly are their wishes? And is there a living will or an advance directive to know what to do? How long does it take to even go through those things with a client?
Well, I see clients usually 2 meetings, the beginning to what they want, some phone calls or emails back and forth. We do the documents, we review them then second time, they sign them, and they can be done in 3 to 5 weeks under normal circumstances. It's not a long nor a terribly expensive process. And as I say, for many, it's one and done. For several others, they amend them, they update them. They amend them and update them, not so much for law changes, although that can occur because they want the latest and greatest, but rather life has changed. The daughter that was responsible married a no good. The son has fallen on hard times and they want to favor him more. There's a grandchild that's gifted or special needs that they want to carve out for. You don't know how those things in life will happen, but they do. And that would also cause a change. It's a life change more than a legal one. And that's normal in life.
How much easier is it, I can only imagine, when someone plans their own funeral in terms of who's going to speak, or if they want flowers, or do you want to be buried or cremated, like I said. I mean, in my mom's case, it wouldn't have mattered if she planned the funeral because the funeral ended up being a Zoom anyway. And who knew that would happen? But how much easier and how difficult is it to ask your own parents, what do you want your funeral to be like?
Well, I think what it was in the past is different than it's going to be. I went to a funeral of a good lawyer friend of mine who had a song list, jazz, that he wanted played during the entire funeral. Okay. Some clients pick the clothes. As an attorney, one of the documents we provide sets forth all these details. It's kind of one of those fill in the blank documents, by the way. And some clients do that, but just as those folks don't want to make estate plans, there's certain folks that say, I don't want to deal with that. I don't want to know from that. I didn't do it for my parents. Let the kids figure it out for themselves. And the opposite's been true. I had a case where the parents paid for a crypt. They wanted cremation. After they passed away, the kids like, no, we don't want to do that. So they actually countermanded what the parents in writing wanted. The issue became, could they do that? And the answer is, if they're on the same page, yeah, they can, because they're the ones that are left to object or agree. And that's what the kids wanted to do. That's rare. 99% of the time, you'll find your wishes are fulfilled. You pay for it ahead of time. It's all lined up. And you, as I say, you can pick the clergy to the what you're wearing, to the place, to the cemetery plot. I might add, we're seeing more cremations. So the cemetery situation is also something that the pandemic has accelerated. We're seeing less burials and more cremations, just the way it is.
I think the number one question I would recommend to people to ask is, do you have a list of your parents' bank accounts and investments? Do you know where that list is? Does it exist? Find out ahead of time.
The list is hard to make because it moves all the time. Brokerages get bought out, banks change names, things go up and down. The real best way to track that is the tax returns. And that, as I mentioned before, is something that should be near about these other documents. When children call me after clients passed away, I may have notes on some of that detail, but those notes are stale. They're decades old or years old. And I instruct them, find my documents and look around for the tax returns, because and get the mail, the snail mail or email, because those are the three sources that you can track that down. You can make a list, and some clients do, but it's difficult and it's ever changing. That's the problem with it.
Early on, I wish I had also, before my mom came down with Alzheimer's, had asked more questions about who are your doctors? And also for many people, what are those medications that you're taking? Why are you taking them? And how long did he want you to take them?
I like the children to be involved early on in elder parents' medical care. I either want them in the room when they're talking to the doctor at the visit, or phoning in, or Zooming in. I don't know about you, but when you talk to doctors, sometimes the language goes right over your head. And that can be for educated people, let alone an elder person who can't quite grasp what they used to grasp 20 years earlier. So you got to get in early on that. And you got to be vigilant about it, because sometimes medications don't work the way they should, but the patient, particularly if they're elderly, may not be able to report that. So you got to watch it and you got to know. And that's more important than the finance to me.
Although sticking with the finance, it's still important to know their Social Security and pension and any veterans benefits and all those kinds of things.
For sure. And again, that circles back to a tax return, which is helpful. That gives you a good roadmap, at least, again, as a starting point. People get investments, they sell investments. And now we're getting a little more digitally involved with cryptocurrency. And you can laugh saying that's a fad. No, it's not a fad. It's here to stay. And that's changing estate planning and documents for us. It's changing how things get administered, and it's changing the financial picture that you mentioned before dramatically. So you got a lot of places you got to look, and later on, there's going to be more places you're going to have to look. It's not getting easier.
So are you finding seniors delving more and more into cryptocurrency as well?
Absolutely. Absolutely.
Wow. Fascinating. Your job is changing fast. So
Yes.
If you gave one piece of solid advice now, one thing you hope people leave this interview with, what is it?
Make a plan. Don't avoid it, because it is unavoidable. Don't leave it in the hands of a judge to figure out what to do while you're alive or when you passed away.
So have those conversations with your children.
Yes, please, please. Makes my job easier and makes things easier for your family and yourself.
Attorney Steve Malach, thanks so much.
You're welcome.